I heard somebody who said Bitcoiners talk about money too much. What's that?
Yeah.
But you work
Well,
for money too much.
I think the government in the beginning stages was designed to work for the people, but then it became a thing where the people now work for the
Are
government.
working.
A lot of Africans start to continue to educate themselves and wake up. I think what unlocked a lot of stuff that's different than the past is the age of information that we're in currently right now.
There's this disconnect between the money I work for and why prices of things keep going up. The beginning of wisdom is the definition of terms.
Inflation just means theft. What institutions and things were put in place to sort of keep us in this sort of neo-colonialism type of environment?
I don't
Yeah.
think anyone can back their currency with gold again.
This is the Mooncast.
See you, Space Cowboy.
Welcome, 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 welcome. It's
Thank
good to
you.
finally get to meet you, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So can you introduce yourself a little bit to the audience? Let them know who you are, what you're about, and yeah.
Okay, my name is Stan, popularly known as Stanorajis. Uh, Professionally, I'm a quantity surveyor, but presently not practicing. It's like quantity surveying is like cost engineering. All right, so I think this is what led me to going into the rabbit hole of how cost of production, how money works in terms of so the fruit of your labor should be safe and you should benefit from it, right? So I think this is what led me to I have a little bit of economics background, but the general economics of high school and in my university days I did an elective course of economics, macroeconomics, So, uh, but my message, like I sent you for this conversation, I said the basics of me trying to share my idea is generally everyone wants a better life. We want something to improve whatever we do, right? So, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So we want to improve whatever we do, right? And for we that live at the side of the western side, like we call it global south, we've been shortchanged, right, based on the monetary system. So I listened to your conversation with Econ Bro. I respect him very well. I think I should call that our conversation 0.1. I think this one should be 0.2 because the place I want to address is just basically how Bitcoin can help us upscale whatever we are doing and then get the better or the most out of it. So that's
How did you discover Bitcoin? What was that journey like? Can you walk me through that?
yeah. I discovered Bitcoin out of should I call it curiosity, not necessity, right? I was very curious and before Bitcoin, I've always had this mindset to grow money or invest money, right? Well, I've actually not invested. All the investment I've been doing, it's ended up going south because I had to rely on someone, right? So, like, let's say I'm not talking about MMM and all this shady. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking of legitimate trying to, grow your capital because you can't just leave your money in the bank, right?
Yeah.
And if you're going to put it into a business, is either you're running the business yourself, so you can't scale it too far, right?
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
have to still rely on people and all those things. So out of the um, mindset of, I was very curious. I wanted to grow money and all that. And I was working and during the lockdown, that was 2020, March 2020, the world stopped, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody had to slow down. And so I've always been reading Kiyosaki. Rich Dad Poor Dad is, I read that book very early. I think I read that book on 2013 or so. So I've already had the mindset, because I think Bitcoin is also about mindset. I think that's what will help you, embrace it faster. So I already had a mindset of, I need to grow money and all that. And Kiyosaki, reading his books, the one he wrote with Donald Trump, Why I Want You to Be Rich, How to Improve Your Financial Intelligence. Just his series of his books are very, so it opened my mind. And during the lockdown period, I just on a radio show, I heard someone talk about an investment or an asset that can give you multiple returns, and I was like, it is not all this money, MMM, and all this kind of thing. In Nigeria, we are Nigeria is a testing ground for everything. So, but yeah, Nigeria is a testing ground for everything. Everything goes as long as just make it faster and just come out. So he explained it, but he explained it. He didn't go deep, right? And due to the fact that I was very curious, I said I
Yeah.
want to know what this is, and so I started digging. And it wasn't difficult for me because I've already had the mindset of growing investment and all that, and my economics background, engineering, and all those things. So I said, okay, let me uh, just buy. And I started buying. And of course, you might say it's risks, but then I was seeing it as risks, but now I know it's no more risks. So
Yeah.
I said, let me step my foot into the waters, and I bought some. I saw how it was going.
What year
I've
was
never
this?
seen 2020 June, June
Okay.
10,
Yeah.
specifically June 10, 2020. So that was when I opened my Binance account, and then trying to do your registration and all those things. It took a very long time. You had to use your international passport, and I didn't have any. So I have to
Yeah.
actually travel out of I was in Lagos. I had to travel somewhere else to do it, coming back and all those things. But I was eager,
Yeah.
so it was the curiosity that opened the way for me. Yeah.
When you say that Bitcoin can solve a lot of problems economically and free a lot of people, especially specifically in the global south, what do you mean by that?
Well, one thing I've noticed is people take cues from those who don't experience the same financial system as they. So, for example, I'm in Nigeria and I'm listening to someone like Peter Schiff telling
Yeah.
me gold is better than Bitcoin. How? I'm in Nigeria, we mine gold. I've never seen gold with my eye, apart from jewelries, and most of them are fake, of course. But I've never seen anyone saving with gold, right?
Yeah.
Throughout, and I said I'm very curious. So for even me who is curious in trying to grow money, some people they don't care. They don't even have the mindset of growing what they have, right? They just feel money is something you earn and spend. So we
Yeah.
have this consumption based. Nigeria is a consuming based mind, not because we want to be that way, but because maybe due to the fact that our money
Inflating.
is worthless, right? So we tend to use things like we tend to use consumption. Maybe you just buy what you don't need, and you just because you want to save your money, so you buy things you don't need per se.
Yeah.
So uh, like I said, people take cues from people who don't have the same financial system as they. They don't
Yeah.
understand that in Nigeria. So if you want to understand how it helps you economically, we need to go down the rabbit hole, right? So this is how I've been trying to tell people that, okay, for example, someone made a post today just on Twitter. I think, let me just use that. He made a post and he said something. He said he went to he's a Nigerian, but he doesn't live in Nigeria. I say, you might know him, Kalu Aja, sorry, Kalu Aja. He's an economist. He's a very big name in Nigeria. So he said he went to the market and he noticed that traders, they have savings, and that savings don't earn interest. And that money they save, they also they pay interest to even take their money. So they have to pay a fee to take their money. And that money also is subject to inflation, right? Now, at the same time, they cannot access credit with their money. So this is the kind of economy we have,
Yeah.
right? So we depend more on savings. So you have to save, and from your savings, then you can spend,
Yeah.
right? But in advanced nation, they have mortgage, they have the credit system. You can spend into the future, right? So you have a way to beat inflation. But here we don't have that. You can't spend into the future except maybe you go and borrow. And here you can't just access loan. An ordinary person cannot just access loan. So what am I trying to say? You were discussing with Ekonbro, and he said something talking about Austrian economics and Keynesian. So he said Keynesian Austrian economists, they believe in savings, right? Savings is the backbone of the economy.
Yeah.
So I just want to bring it home. If as a Nigerian, I'm saving, and that my savings can do little or nothing for me. And at the same time, I face, on average, 95 to 150% inflation annually.
Yeah.
So what else should I use to hold my capital? In Nigeria, we are mostly land. We have this land mindset. So anytime you have money, the only viable investment is to go and buy land. Okay, let's say you are projecting. Not everybody can just buy land. You have to save for a couple of years, right? So you have to save. And now this money you are saving is being devalued 90 something to 150% annually. And you and Ekon Bro were talking about Nigerian naira, from when it was issued to today. Check the inflation. Nigerian naira has devalued over 99.99 something percent, and people still hold it. So this is the economy we have, but this is not the economy Peter Schiff has. This is
Yeah.
not the economy so many people abroad have, right? So
Yeah.
to them, they might not see the economic imperative of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But to me, who can see it? Okay, for example, let me just give you this example. Um, Someone in, I think I also made this post on Twitter. Someone, just think of this. Someone who earns 250K, an average Nigerian who earns 250K, just in 2020, your 1 year savings, I don't want to add expense, I don't want to add taxes or whatever, just round up 250K. So in
Yeah.
12 months, that's 3 million, right? That was the cost. That was what it cost to have one Bitcoin, 3 million. Now, this is 2024, 4 years from then. Now, it will take you over 100 million to buy one Bitcoin. It simply means it will take you 33 years of work. You get it? As
Yeah.
opposed to
Yeah.
as opposed to 1 year of work in 2020.
Yeah.
So let's say somebody who has been DCAing, irrespective of, and this is what I'm telling you is irrespective of the highs, the lows, because so many people have the pushback of Bitcoin is volatile and all that. But yes, Bitcoin is it's a savings technology,
Yes.
not just a short term. It's not for short term, right?
Yeah, you
It's
know what's funny? It's really hilarious to me because it really depends on what you're trading it against, right?
Thank
If
you.
you
Yeah,
and that's the trick that people don't understand. What are you trading it against? If you look at it from the inception to where it is now, you just need to trade it. Let's just say trade it against real estate. You need less and less of the actual underlying asset itself to buy the
yeah,
same real estate in 2024
yeah.
that you did in 2014, 2013, 2011, 2012. And I think that's a trick that people don't understand. But you can go ahead. I just want to interject real quick.
No, and that's a good point because I have a different way to explain this,
Yes.
right? So they keep telling me Bitcoin is volatile and all that. And I tell them, no, Bitcoin is not volatile. It's your Naira that is volatile, right? So how do
Exactly.
I explain it? Let's say you have 100,000 and you've been saving that 100,000 in your bank account for the past 10 years. Let's say you put a fixed deposit and the interest rate is zero. So let's say there won't be any accruing interest.
Yeah.
So I just want to use that nominal value, right? So for that 10 years, you always see 100,000 as the nominal value. But that does not tell you that your Naira is stable. Because if you want
Yes.
to know what stable or volatile is, you should reflect it, like we said, to the purchase of something else, which is the
Yes.
cost, right? Like how if you want to exchange it to something else, right?
Yes.
So if you want to exchange that same 100,000, right, in that 10 years period, you will see that it is not actually stable. It has lost over 99% of its purchasing power, right? So what they
Yeah.
are thinking is because they are seeing Bitcoin's price in relative to fiat currency. They are measuring it in fiat currency price.
Exactly.
So it will always be volatile. But at the same time, if you want to use this same perspective, just like you had your 100,000 naira in nominal term, you want to
Yes.
also have your Bitcoin in nominal term. Your one Bitcoin will always be one Bitcoin.
Exactly.
Your
And
zero
that's
point 0.1 will always be zero point 0.1, right?
exactly.
Now, if you want to still do the same trick and now reflect what that your Bitcoin, that zero point 0.1 or 1 can purchase for you, you will see that it has increased in purchasing
Increased.
power compared to your naira. That
Yeah.
100,000 would have depreciated in purchasing price. Now, these
Yeah.
are explained to people and they're like, oh, it's true.
Yeah. And
Right?
and why do you think that, because I don't know how is the landscape of education in Nigeria at the early stages? Do they talk about money, about economics, about how the central bank was created? Why don't they talk about it? I feel like there needs to be a
This is
revamp.
this
Yeah, go ahead. You
yeah,
can speak on
yeah.
it. Yeah,
The
yeah.
system yeah, this the system is you don't have any, there's no incentive for them to educate you. They don't, there's nothing to gain to educate you. So why should they?
Yeah.
Why
I
should they
mean,
educate you?
if
Even
they if they educate people, people can be more productive, and it creates a better society overall, right? Because if,
yeah,
the
but
more
that is the
education people
society.
have, yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead,
yeah,
go ahead.
but that's to the benefit that yeah, no, you can always interject, but that's to the benefit of the people
Yeah, but
on the long
that's
run. To the That's more to the benefit of the people, and maybe the only way is to for them to increase taxes. But for them to actually teach you the basics, it simply means one day you won't need them,
yeah, but
right?
that's the point.
That they want, yeah, but they don't want you to go to that level. That's just
Yeah,
it. So it's a slave mindset per se. So they don't want
yeah,
you to grow. They don't want you to grow. They don't teach. The only thing they will tell you is normally, naturally, we save. We are savers because if you don't save, you borrow, right?
yeah,
Just like how you are talking with Ekon bro about the credit market. Yeah, you
yeah,
always have a way to take loan, but then that loan will be a direct loan from someone else. You can't just walk
yeah,
into the bank and take loan, an
yeah,
unsecured loan. It doesn't happen. We don't have mortgages, like I said. We don't have car loan, home equity line of credit, business line of credit. We don't have all these things. So whenever you want to purchase something, you have to actually save for it, or you have to actually borrow from someone, of which the
yeah,
person knows this is a counterparty risk.
yes,
So the person
yeah,
is aware that you are the risk. So the person checks your credits. The person checks you and say, okay, I can borrow you this or I cannot borrow you. In fact, truth be told, how I started my Bitcoin journey, it was through borrowing
really,
because I didn't have. Yeah, yeah. I
yeah,
I told you, yes, I had the financial knowledge because I've been doing personal development. All of which I always say that, of course, in Nigeria, most of us depend on the government and all that. And I
yeah,
tell people that there is no extraordinary government policy that can compensate for poor personal finance,
yeah,
right?
yeah. It's true.
And at the same time, there is no ineffective government policy that can overcome a strong personal finance. So
Yeah,
what I'm trying to say here is, no matter how you rely on the government, even if you think that maybe someone will be elected, just like Ekonbro was saying, democracy and all those things, maybe the next 4 years, because this is what we do. We waste time for 4 years and hope that someone else will come and make it better, but they make it worse, right?
yeah,
But the reason most people are that's because, yeah, like you said, they don't give people the chance to increase their personal development for personal finance, right? So people always depend on the government for everything. But if you have strong personal finance, irrespective of the person who comes into power, at least you understand the financial system. You know how
yeah.
to help yourself. So that's just
Do you think Nigeria could get to a point where, because you know how it kind of started in El Salvador was they had a small community of people just hyper Bitcoinizing within that ecosystem, and then the president saw that and saw that it was working, and then decided to expand it into the nation, right? And it made
yeah,
absolute sense because it can actually free you. People don't just think about it from the smaller scale of like the consumer and the average day citizen, but they don't think about it from the nation state perspective of where the nation states, a lot of them are in crazy debt. And actually,
yeah,
Bitcoin can help free you, like what it's been doing to El Salvador. Now they're so profitable. they can start to pay back all of the IMF debt that they own, right?
Yeah.
And this is the true power, I think, of Bitcoin is once nation states start realizing why it should be a reserve asset, because you have an appreciating asset that goes up and no one controls it, and it can also be used for cross-border international trade too as well,
Yeah.
so people don't get confused. And I think it's another thing that can help to free Africa, because if you look at Africa, we have like I think like 33 currencies or something like this, right? And it doesn't make any sense to have this many currencies. I mean, obviously people are thought about implementing, one unified currency that could work backed by our natural resources, but then it comes with counterparty risk of are people who's managing that,
Yeah.
whereas if you just adopt the Bitcoin standard, it alleviates all the issues because Bitcoin is universal. You get
Yeah.
me? So
Yeah.
it's like a modern day version of gold. It's just more sophisticated, in the sense that
Yeah.
you can actually move it around. Like I can't take a whole bunch of gold coins in a bag and then drag it around and pay for
Sure.
things.
Sure.
It's
You
inefficient.
always have a
People
clearing how you always have someone to rely on to finalize transaction
exactly.
and all. And
It's
it's
counterparty
costly. It's
risk.
costly.
It's
Yeah, it's not just
costly.
that it's heavy. It's not just
Yeah,
that it's heavy or risky. It's also costly. So all
exactly.
these have cost because if you're trying to mitigate the cost of risks, so you need security, right? So if you are trying to mitigate maybe the cost of carriage, you need logistics, right?
Yes.
So if you are trying to, so there are so many, so you have to depend on a lot of persons. And at the end
Yeah.
of the day, all these things are incurred costs. So
Yeah, and I think another thing that troubles me too is just the fact that I think a lot of African leaders, because there's a lot of corrupt African leaders, they get bribes and stuff, from the West,
yeah,
and they get
yeah,
manipulated, and they don't understand because I've looked at the numbers, and I'm actually dropping a course very soon. So I'm in the position right now of closing a strategic partnership with an institution in conjunction with the signups that we already have to bring this new form of knowledge from what is money principles to economics to then getting to why cryptocurrency exists, because to understand cryptocurrency you need to go back to
yeah.
understanding a lot of things,
A
the
lot
Bretton
of
Woods
things. Yeah,
agreement, why
yeah,
was that implemented, why we didn't participate in that as the global south,
yeah.
you know um,
Executive order system 102, seizure of gold, and all those stuff. Yeah,
exactly. Exactly. So it's so much information that needs to. So there's a lot of unlearning and
that's what
relearning that
we.
needs to be done.
Yeah, yeah. That's why we call Bitcoin a rabbit hole because
Yeah.
you might think you just want to make money. But then when you buy, you now say, oh, I need to protect this money I want to make. So how do I
Yeah.
protect it? And you start thinking, okay, I need self-custody. So how do I go into self-custody? So you start thinking of the technology part of it. So
Yeah.
it's not just like fiat where you just put your money in the bank and you're okay, or which
Yeah.
you are not even okay. You are never okay with fiat.
Yeah.
So that's the rabbit hole. So you need history and I see, like I said, was it Saylor said something in Prague this last Prague 2024. He said Bitcoin Insight is open to those with the need to know, right?
Yes.
So you need to have, like I said, I started as a result of curiosity. Curiosity. So
Exactly.
it's not something that will just be brought to you on a platter.
It's intellectual
So
curiosity.
thank you. So it's not something that will just be brought to you on a platter, or maybe you expect the government have to give you the right. Maybe I know something like I said, a lot of us rely on the government. So maybe people
Yeah.
are expecting the government to come on one day and announce, okay, now you can use Bitcoin, just like El Salvador is a legal tender. But it won't just happen like that. Yeah, good luck to those who they are living in a country that will make it happen that easily. But everyone cannot just be that way. So you need to take it up and understand how to you it will help you upscale whatever you're doing economically and otherwise. And I wanted to touch on the aspect of why people also have pushback in terms of Nigeria is a very religious country. But I
Yeah.
think that should be. I just want to focus on the economic incentive because I've heard a lot of things, and they try to bring in this religious. Let me use the word. What's the word? Uh, Trying to use uh, religious blackmail. Let me use that word. Something like money is the root of all evil. So
Yeah.
you don't even want it. You get so maybe when you
Yes.
talk about, I heard somebody who said Bitcoiners talk about money too much. What's that?
Yeah.
But you work
Well,
for money too much.
Exactly. And you know
You
what's
spend your
funny?
life working.
A lot of people, they avoid to talk about money, but like you said, they chase money and they never understood what it actually is, why it was
Yeah,
implemented, who controls it, and why the values of goods and services keep going up every single year.
yeah,
They never ask themselves. They just think like, oh, the government needs to, and this is the so I think the government in the beginning stages was designed to work for the people, but then it became a thing where the people now work for the
are working
government,
for the
right?
government.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I think that people don't understand how much power they have. If you see what's happening now in Kenya, with some of the protests that's going on, because
yeah,
people are waking up, they're starting to realize, wait a minute, like you need us, we don't need you, and
yeah.
I'm hoping my hope is that a lot of Africans start to continue to educate themselves and wake up. I think what unlocked a lot of stuff that's different than the past is the age of information that we're in currently right now. So
Yeah,
everybody's connected with a smartphone, and
yeah,
everybody can get access to all the information in the world
yeah,
at the fingertips.
yeah,
So the world is changing so much, and I hope that at some point, I'm looking at stuff that's happening. I think the global south is going to be able to turn stuff around because, and I'm also that's not one thing I wanted to bring up too as well with my course is just bringing in the statistics and the data to showcase how how much in critical condition the Western nations are in, because I think a lot of people, they don't know that they still are trying
they
to,
don't know.
yeah, they're trying to
They,
save up money with their families to gather it up to go over there, and they don't
yeah,
realize how critical of a condition it is currently right now, economically speaking.
yeah,
So there's going to be a crash soon.
yeah, of course. So most people they can't connect. There's this disconnect between the money I work for and why prices of things keep going up. So they
Yes.
can't even connect how inflation, because they use the word and like what was his name? Uh, a philosopher. He said, uh, the beginning of wisdom is the definition of terms, right?
Yes.
So
Exactly.
yeah, so they define the way they define things like deflation and inflation, the
Yeah.
opposite. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, before I did, like I said, I did economics. Before, I thought deflation was a bad thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Deflation
Yeah.
just simply means your purchasing power is going higher.
Yes. Exactly.
Why
And
inflation? Why
and
inflation
it,
means your purchase? Yeah, continue.
yeah, I was gonna say to interject. Inflation just means theft. That's it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, they're trying to
Yeah,
confuse it. It's theft, but they just call it
it's theft.
inflation. But it's just a hidden version of theft. It's as if somebody's stealing from you, but you don't know they're stealing from you, and they're doing it for a
And
long duration of time. That's it.
and the funny thing is, before when I talk about Bitcoin, I have to think very deep because the people I'm addressing said they rely too much on one source, central source, government and all that. So I have to think deep. In fact, I cannot just tell people inflation is theft. I can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
It won't sink.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
It won't. There's no connection between high price of things going up because they will be like, is it the government that is making Indomie? They will tell you the government is not making Indomie. The government don't plant yam. So how can inflation, how can price up, because they think inflation is price of things going up. So how can costly things being costly, how is it theft? So even if they
Yeah.
think it's theft, they will now think, okay, it is maybe the producers or the manufacturers, right? So I can't even use that word, inflation is theft. It won't sink.
Yeah.
So I try to think deep, and so I focus more on the money, right?
Yeah.
I focus more on the money and try to distinguish between Bitcoin and fiat, and
Yes.
how fiat, which is naira, right, is the actual inflation because of the constant increase. I my pin tweet. I have a series of thread where I discuss this from beginning to the end, right?
Yeah.
How inflation starts, via government through printing money, and then how it causes rise of price of, because much money chasing fewer goods, and not just that.
Exactly.
That's one end, and then you have fractional reserve lending, of which most people can't access that because we are in Nigeria. Me, I can't access loans, right? But if
Yeah.
Dangote accesses loan, he's devaluing my money.
Yeah. Exactly.
I don't know
Yeah.
if you
Yeah. Yeah.
get, yeah.
Yeah. I get you. Yeah.
If
There's more money in
if
circulation. Yeah.
yeah, if he accesses credit, he's taking the Cantillon effect. He has the right hand to the purchasing power of that money. Why it will
Yes,
trickle down to me, of which I'm the
exactly.
majority of what I do is just to save and spend.
It's very simple. The people who get the money first when new money gets injected into the system win, and the people who
Yeah, they
get the
win.
money last lose. That's the
Yeah,
game that we're playing, and now that game is accelerating. And like I said, because I'm very familiar with Western nations. You know, I grew up in the U.S. and but I've been able to connect the two between the global South, in Africa, South America, and so on, and versus the global North in Europe and in America, because I've lived in Europe too as well. And a lot of people don't understand that we're at a stage where the debt to GDP ratios are so bad in Western nations that like any little sort of event, which there's projections, which I think potentially more than likely World War III is going to happen, right? It would end the entire fiat game because it would cause the hyperinflation, right? That a lot of people have been waiting on, because fiat is a ticking time bomb. It's literally you grab it and you need to move it somewhere fast because every
yeah,
single day your
yeah,
money is worth less. And
yeah,
so it's at a stage where the government's economic productivity is going down. A lot of people don't even know that for instance, in Europe, they have a rapidly aging population. So there's not enough workers to fit the jobs, right? And
yeah,
so, and now there's like a far right movement happening too as well, where I'm like, okay, well, that's just going to cause the immigrants to come back and build their countries, and you're going to have less people in the workforce. Then you're going to send
yeah,
some of those people in the workforce to a war, so it's going to deplete your population even more. And so it's
yeah,
almost like you want to deliberately hand the keys off to the global South, who have all the natural resources, and so this is what people don't understand what's happening. It looks like there's a shift happening. When you look at the BRICS movement, you look at the Sahel states in West Africa and what they're doing currently right now. You look at the entire situation with the global South going towards BRICS. I think that there's going to be a situation where things completely change.
I
Yeah,
agree.
so the point I want to make is it appears that there's a shift happening, and a lot of people are not, they don't know this. And this is again why I'm building out this academy to really showcase to Africans. I'm building out a Pan-African Web3 academy, but it won't just be just about crypto and how to make money. It's going to be something way more strategic, way more sophisticated, because I need to showcase and highlight what is happening in the West, what institutions and things were put in place to sort of keep us in this sort of neo-colonialism type of environment where we couldn't thrive economically, right? Hey bro, I'm just trolling is something that will not just challenge your perspective, but also touch your heart and soul. It's a book that defies convention, blending art and literature into a thought-provoking masterpiece. A reflective piece of provocative art that tackles societal constructs from angles you've never considered. Hey bro, I'm just trolling delves into the very essence of our existence. It questions the technology that surrounds us, challenges our notions of beauty, stares unflinchingly into the eyes of death, and questions the boundaries of freedom. It scrutinized the educational system that molds our very future. This book is a journey, an exploration of shared human experience, and it's a work of art that refuses to be confined by tradition. It's a canvas painted with words, a melody of thought, and a testament to the power of creativity in a world dominated by algorithms and data. Visit moonboycapitalventures.com and get your hands on Hey Bro, I'm Just Trolling today. It's not just a book, it's a movement. Now let's jump back into the show. Lack of deep-rooted understanding and complexities of how the economic system works in the West, and a lot of people don't know that everything is to Africa specifically advantage, more than any
Yeah,
other continent because of the resources, the human
yeah,
capital, right?
yeah,
And also, all
yeah,
we need to do is just bridge the diaspora and get rid of the leaders
yeah,
that are in place currently right now. And those are the only two things. That's
yeah,
it. That's it. Bridge the diaspora
yeah,
initiatives, because so they can bring the skill sets and everything that they've learned from the West, so they don't have to cling to Russia and China and all these. So they need to bring really good marketing and really good incentives to make the diaspora want to move back. And people are very naturally profit seeking. So
yeah,
if they know, oh, there's opportunity here, and I can make money, and I can also help people that look like me, they will do it. But if there's no infrastructure in place,
of
there's
course.
no programs that are really widely marketed. I think this is where Africa lacks a lot, and I think that's part of the issue with Africa in general is the lack of really good marketing and controlling the narrative. It's starting to change, but
Yeah,
there's always been a lack of being able to control the narrative. And if you don't control your narrative will be controlled for you. And that's
yeah,
just the
of course.
reality.
And yeah, that's the reality. And just like I said, of course, whenever I talk about Bitcoin, I don't like to, not even just Bitcoin, right? Because Bitcoin is not just about Bitcoin. Bitcoin is
Yes.
about financial empowerment. It's about personal empowerment. So I just feel the people have the say. So if the people, much of them or a lot of them, can understand how this is very important to them, and then I don't even expect a government to just come and because so many persons are like what Bro was talking about. He talked about the kind of economy he would like to project if he was given the chance and all that. And of course, it's true, but then that would lead to a lot of what's the word? Let's say
Yeah.
coup
Yeah.
d'etat, and all. It will lead to a lot of yeah. It might sound okay, but to me, I just feel if the people have this knowledge enough, and then they can see how it's important to them, as time goes on, we will bring in that economy we want.
Yeah.
It won't be a short term thing. It won't be. I don't expect African countries to just accept Bitcoin because there are a lot of connections with the West as
Yeah.
the West. So I don't expect them to just break out and all that. But then with time, because we don't even have these leaders, we don't have these individuals who understand the basics. The people they have around them, the advisors, they still want to rip people off, right? They are
Yes.
there to take their share and leave, and the
Yeah.
next one is there to. But if with time people begin to see the young one, because Africa, we like there's a graph I saw. I think that is statistica.com or so.
Yeah.
We have high percent of uh, youth
Seventy
in
percent.
Africa.
70%
Thank you.
is age 30 and younger.
And younger. Thank you.
Yeah.
So we have the power, we have the manpower, we have the youth, we have the resources, manpower resources. But
Yeah.
what we don't know yet is, or what we still do is we keep relying on the next person to help us
Yes.
fix it. And to me, we have all it takes. The only issue we have is we don't have a sound money. That is just
Yes.
what bridges the whole thing. We don't have that financial system. We don't have that sound money, and that's why they keep putting the Africans. They keep putting us at the spots where we are. They don't want us to
Exactly.
break out. So
Exactly.
I don't focus on the government because the government have their own incentives. Whatever they tell them, they can sign into law. They don't
Yes.
care. They'll take the
Yes.
money and leave. They have just 4 years, right? So to
Mm-hmm.
them, that 4 years is like a tour.
Yeah.
They're just That's just a tour. Just like they went for vacation. After four
Yeah.
years, they leave.
Yeah.
So if lots of or majority of the young ones, right, that age 30 below, if majority of them, this 70% is very huge. If we
Yeah.
can change the narrative, right, and understand how personally Bitcoin can help us achieve this, then we are
Yeah.
good to go.
Yeah, I also, just I agree. I agree 100%. I also think that democracy is complete BS for Africa. I think it's something that was colonial,
Yeah,
and
of course.
we had our own systems in place before. They may have been slower, but they were more in the end better overall for the success
Yeah,
of Africa. Anyways, in that type of construct, because the idea that you come into power for 4 years, you can't do anything in 4 years, and
you
also
can't.
you're getting lobbied, you're getting bribed by so many people so you can
Yeah,
benefit their interests, and it's inefficient because you have so many different people that are in charge, and all these people you have to pay, and all these different
yeah,
bureaucratic. It's too bureaucratic. So for
yeah,
me, it's the most inefficient system, and the idea that it was supposed to be superior is BS. It's the same as this modern version of capitalism, where you have to become a forced unsecured creditor to participate, right? So basically what I mean by that is you have to deposit money into a bank and become an unsecured creditor, in a sense, because the bank goes bankrupt and they don't have your money. You see what happened in Ukraine? People were lining up trying to get their money and the bank didn't have it, right? And
of
so,
course.
and on top of that, they
And
force you to be a risk taker, because now you have to find ways to invest your money and you have to be very strategic. You have to understand finance. If you're not a professional risk taker, you also lose. So they kind of corner you in
of
this
course,
position where you can't just focus
you
on your
you
craft.
what you're trying. So what you're just trying to do is you're trying to earn your money twice.
Yes.
The money you worked for. So because you don't have, and this is the whole idea of Austrian economics, right? So they incentivize anything that will make you save,
Yeah. Yeah.
anything that will make you save, and then any source of, to me, because yeah, anything that will make you save, they incentivize it. Why anything that will make you invest, we rely on them.
Yes, exactly. And you know, actually, I this is a very hot take, but I actually don't believe in economics because if you look at the core definition of economics, it's the study of scarcity. So for
Very
me,
true.
it doesn't apply to Africa at all,
It
right?
doesn't.
So Africa
Scarcity,
needed
scarcity, and opportunity cost.
exactly, exactly. It didn't apply.
Consequence of action.
Exactly. Exactly. I think the exact same. So actually what I'm doing is I'm building out a completely different economic model never seen before. So I'm inventing something
Yeah,
completely different because we need to I think the problem with Africa is that we need to decolonize our minds. You know, I think
the
we're
mind.
still we're going through I think someone said this when I was listening to a podcast. They called it a post traumatic slave and colonial disorder, something like this. Like,
PTSD.
yeah. But it's like it's a different type of PTSD, you know. It's like
Yeah, of
post traumatic
course.
slave disorder, post traumatic slave colonial disorder, something like this, right? And this is what
Yeah,
we're
of course.
facing, you know. And the thing is, everything is there. We just don't have, like I said, the execution and the synergy. And also, I do believe that it's been long overdue. We should have removed these borders, right? The,
Of course.
the
Yeah.
the borders is what's holding us back because imagine I have information. I'm from Nigeria, but it's not easy for me to go drive to, let's say, the Gambia without going through all these bureaucratic steps and the visa, blah blah, all this stuff, right? And then you have
Yeah.
to bribe people along the way before you get there just to be able to go, you know. So and obviously you have the ECOWAS agreement and stuff, right? But what I'm saying is, if you look at areas where you don't have the ECOWAS agreement, if you want to connect and share information or go do business, it's a lot of stuff. In Europe, they just move around, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they don't have these bottlenecks. They don't have these tariffs. If I want to move potatoes from one location to another, or if I want to move cocoa from one location to another, I got to pay all these tariffs. Did you know that
Of course.
somebody actually recently was talking about this? It was a Westerner that does business with cocoa in Ghana, and he said that he said it's cheaper for him to go and take the cocoa to Belgium, where 0% tariff, produce it, finalize the cocoa there, and then bring it then to South Africa, than to go ahead and make the proper fine-tuned product in Ghana and then take it to South Africa, which is crazy because 20% tariff. He said it's cheaper even with the transportation cost. He said it's still cheaper to take it to
Wow.
Belgium. And this is the type of stuff that is easy to fix. It's easy to fix, right? And I think, like I said,
Of
sound money
course.
principles is important. But if we don't have open borders to trade, it's going to be also another issue that we're going to face because, you know, we like I said, we Africa as a whole doesn't need to worry about economics, which is the definition is again the study of scarcity, right? Africa just needs
Yeah.
to figure
Yeah.
out how to use the resources that's within it to thrive and not care about anything else. But like I said, I'm starting to see changes happening slowly. Like I look at the Sahel
Yeah.
states, I look at what's happening in Kenya. Botswana's got it together. Rwanda's got it together. Seychelles,
Yeah.
Mauritius. You know, there's some really
Yeah.
really good countries on the continent. The Zambia is actually doing some good stuff too as well, from what I heard.
Yeah. And I remember why during the NSAS era, I remember
Yeah.
I was talking to people. I was telling them this NSAS, this yeah, the protests. At least people were sharing their grievances, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I told them you people are focusing on the wrong thing because you are thinking you want the government to change.
Yes.
No, even if yeah we are protesting, like I said, sticks and stone can't break the government.
Yeah.
It can't, right?
Yeah.
What will break them is that personal finance, how understanding. I don't know. Whoever I talk to, and I see them complaining and all those things, and I try to still tell them about Bitcoin. In fact, there is more resistance to the Bitcoin And I'm like, what do you want? You want the government to change? How?
Yeah,
So I tell them
yeah,
that it's easier to fix the money than to fix the government, of which the
yeah,
money inevitably fixes the government. That's what I
yeah,
just tell them. Understand this thing. Understand how it personally, how to improve your finances. How, and when you start seeing the effects, you won't be thinking much of the government. The only way you'll be thinking of them is, okay, if I just like the way you're thinking now, you're
yeah,
thinking outside the box.
yeah,
But if
yeah,
you're hungry, if you're angry, and if you think someone else is the problem, man, you won't you nothing will change, right?
yeah,
You just
yeah,
keep going around in circles on the hamster wheel, which they want you to keep running in and running, and
yeah,
nothing is changing. So this is what people don't understand. I told them, yeah, we are fighting for a good cause. And SARS, yes, but it's not just corruption and not just the government.
yeah.
How many people understand Bitcoin from people who are shouting NSAS? How many
Oh man,
people, how many of them will I tell about, even if
come on.
during the NSAS, it was even Bitcoin that helped them continue the protest because there were a lot of shutdown, of which,
Yeah,
of course, the tool of government is control, right? Which is fiat.
yes,
Fiat is their tool for control. So,
yes,
yeah, they tell us, yeah, the uses of money, sorry, functions of money, medium of exchange, unit of accounts, store of value. Then the government added one tool for control, which is fiat. They
yeah,
added that the tool for control. So that is the most important thing to them. Tool of control, nothing else. In fact,
yeah.
this is the most important to them. The store of value doesn't matter to them, right?
Yeah, it's interesting because because like I said, fiat is crashing, right? Everyone can
Of
see
course,
it.
of
It's
course.
blatant. It's obvious. Just at different paces. In the States, it's slower because the global reserve currency, so they have the exorbitant privilege of exporting inflation to the rest of the world, right?
Yeah,
And
of the
being the
world,
global
yeah.
reserve currency for international trade. But I think what do you think about when fiat crashes? Would that then accelerate people to understand Bitcoin, or do you think it would just be chaos and people would just blame the government and they would just restructure something else that gives them even more control?
Well, until the government understands, because even most of the people who are going into government don't even understand the money.
I know,
Truth be told, they don't understand money.
I know, I know.
They just go there and they take up the templates they tell them.
Yeah,
In fact,
yeah,
they take all their information from the central bank, and the central
exactly.
bank have their, yeah. So they don't understand. But if they do, just like how, look at El Salvador's president, he has
Yes,
done the proof of work. How many people
yeah,
can do the proof of work, right? So this is also one of the reasons I also encourage young ones to understand this early enough. So talking about what will happen if the fiat crashes totally. Are you aware that fiat can crash 99.9% and still crash another 99.9% and
yeah,
people will keep using
yeah.
it?
But
Right?
here's what I'm saying though. When it becomes unbearable, where you can't buy anything with the money because it's just literally worthless. Like what happened with the Deutsche Mark when they had to pay back for World War I, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it hyperinflated, right? Or what's happening in Venezuela, what's happening in Turkey, in Nigeria too as well. When it gets to a point though,
God.
when majority of people are fed up because they literally can't buy anything, that's when I say that the crashing will happen. It's where people will just stop using the money. People will just
Of
stop
course.
using because it just doesn't make any sense. They're gonna stop working. They're gonna start looking for answers, right?
Yeah, of
They're
course.
gonna pillage the streets, you know.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, when that happens, and I hope majority of persons are not they are stacking sad before this happen, right? But if they are not, it will be terrible. And to me, I feel any government or any person who is in control who doesn't still understand Bitcoin will blame someone else, right? They will blame market manipulators, just like the Naira. And this was funny because I told people, I kept saying it, that your Naira, this was when Naira was 450 per dollar. In fact, I had to hold a seminar and I called it Don't Save Naira. No, I'm not joking. This was 2020. This was in the bear market. In the bear market, when they
Yeah,
had the advantage to buy Bitcoin at a low, when Naira was still strong,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
In fact, in Naira term, then Bitcoin was 11 million
yeah,
in Naira term. So
yeah,
I held it and I said, and I gave them series of, and so many people were still pushing back.
yeah,
But Bitcoin is volatile, this and that. And I kept explaining how the volatility is a perception error.
Yes.
It is how they are viewing it, because
Yes.
naira is actually more volatile than Bitcoin. And I had to go to the chart. I'm not trying to deviate from what you asked, but I like to address things so that people understand it from where they are,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I told them, this thing we are saying, Bitcoin is volatile, naira is not volatile. You are seeing it the opposite. In fact, not to look at the chart, Bitcoin is something they can't even print, while naira is
Yeah.
something they can print. So how can you tell me something they can't print is volatile, and why something they can print is stable? I have so many ways to explain these things so that even my 11-year-old niece understands that Bitcoin is important. So what I'm saying is, if the government who comes in power doesn't understand the essence of sound money, we'll look for another fiat again.
Yeah.
Probably highest will what they will do is they will dollarize Nigeria, because that is the only thing they will do. Because most people, yeah, the elites are the ones holding dollars. So what they
Yeah.
will do is they will just maybe finance the government through dollar, and then they will maybe dollarize, or then they want to back dollar and bring another new currency. But it's still the
Yeah.
same shit show. It's still the same
Yeah.
shit show. There's no sound money, or just what the bricks are doing, wasting time.
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Yeah.
so what I'm saying is, if they don't understand the essence of sound money, this is the only message that I preach, and I can preach it with different ways,
Yeah.
irrespective of, because one thing I know about Nigeria is we are too religious. One,
Yeah.
and two, we have little knowledge of economics or sound financial, personal finance. We have little personal finance knowledge, right? So these are the
Yeah.
two ways I try to. And I can even open the Bible and tell you why it's important from biblical points that you
Yeah.
have sound money.
Yeah.
So this is just the way I try to explain it, and whoever goes there, because I know that one day my peers, my age mates, and others will be the one there. Even if
Yeah.
maybe I might not be the one, but if I happen to be the one, but I'm just saying, you must understand sound money. If you don't understand sound money, you're wasting time.
Yeah.
That's just it.
What do you think about? I don't know if you're following what the Sahel states are doing in Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali,
Not really,
because
but
they're trying to back their currencies. So they're leaving ECOWAS and they're trying to back their currencies with natural resources. Now, there still comes a counterparty risk. This is why for me, I don't
what
like it.
kind
But I
of
just want to hear you.
what kind of natural resources? Let me know the kind of natural
Gold,
resources.
gold.
Oh, gold.
Yeah.
Well, backing with gold. See, dollar failed. The US is a very strong nation, and dollar failed. I don't
Yeah.
think anyone can back their currency with gold again
Yeah.
and it succeeds. It's not possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm saying this because I understand, like you said, if you don't understand history, we'll keep repeating the same mistake.
Yes.
If US, which is the strongest nation, in fact, US financially they are doing well, they are strong. Let me use that word. But if they still failed with the backing of the dollar to gold, I don't think anyone else trying to do that is subject to the US is wasting time,
Yeah.
right? So you still there's still central you they will still have a new executive order,
Yeah.
6102,
Yeah.
and then they'll still have another 1971, and then they'll still have another Bretton Woods, and then they'll still have another 2000 2007 financial crisis,
Yeah.
bank runs, litany of just that. Just we know the game, right? They'll
Yeah.
keep
Yeah.
repeating
Yeah.
it and repeating it until they need the sound money that is decentralized,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's just
I mean, I'm doing my part. Like I said, I'm building out this Web3 Academy to showcase, to teach to people, sound money principles, understanding what is
yeah,
money principles, and where money was at and where it came to be today. And I think this is super important information that again they
yeah,
don't
of
talk
course,
about enough. And another thing that I
of course.
noticed too as well is I've been seeing a lot of advertisements of this is an app. I forgot the name of this app, but it's telling people to save in dollars, in Africa.
Rise.
And I'm just like, I just don't understand it. And then I can't be people buy into those type of applications where they
And
talk
so
about
I don't try it.
inflation and
I don't try it.
yeah, it's
In
like yeah,
fact,
you're in.
there are some even who tell you to fix deposit your naira. and give you higher interest. So many nonsense. So there was one, and see, whenever I say this on Twitter, I put my post there and I tell them
Yeah.
Bitcoin is the best money out of everything else. And
Yeah.
look at Nigerians who are suffering inflation. Most of them start telling me, I don't know what I'm saying. I'm new into Bitcoin. That's why I'm talking. And if I
Yeah.
understand Bitcoin, I won't be posting what I'm. These are- do you understand? So I feel the government is not a problem yet
Yeah.
until we understand that we have a part to play. It's just like, for example, I'd like to use this. I also have a Twitter post that says this. I said, if you don't understand that printing press was a way to dematerialize and decentralize information and knowledge, and the internet was a way to dematerialize and decentralize commerce and
And
what is it
information.
called? And information or freedom of speech. Let me use that word.
Yes.
Free speech. You won't still understand that Bitcoin is a tool to dematerialize money, right? And decentralize property rights and make it
Yeah.
and give you back that property right. This is just what we are looking for. So
Yes.
any person who push back against printing press, the internet, these people will still push back against Bitcoin, right? But at the end of
Yeah.
the day, they will fail. But
Yeah.
the earlier you understand the essence of these three things, these three technologies are what changed the whole world:
Yes.
printing press, internet, and Bitcoin. Now,
Absolutely.
if you don't understand these three, they still don't understand what in fact what they're shouting about. So
What do you think about the limitations of Bitcoin and us being have to inevitably go into layer two solutions to be able to transact more cheaply and quickly, swiftly?
well, I think Bitcoin developers are doing a very good work because I basically use Lightning Network, which is the layer
Yes.
two network for Bitcoin, very
Yes.
well now. And there are a lot of applications that you can use, right? That can help you do that. So even from the on ramp of from Naira to Bitcoin directly, or maybe just sending it, because most people they've had this issue with transaction.
Yeah.
In fact, that was why they had the block size war, and they wanted to build bigger blocks, right?
Yes.
So that they scale it from the layer one. And sorry,
Yes.
they scale it from the layer one, but of course that will reduce the decentralization and there will be a security risk to the network, and then
Yes.
there will be no Bitcoin. So I like what developers are doing in terms of the layer two, which is Lightning. And Lightning, like I said, lots of persons, when they talk about, okay, how do we go from Naira to, there are ways I talk about. I don't know if I want to say it on air because I think some of these podcasts are the way government gets information and block the whole lot. Just like the way they blocked Binance and they started blaming Binance. Tomorrow they might
Oh man, for printing
tomorrow they might.
$27 billion.
Can you imagine? So they said Binance was in charge, was the responsible for Naira devaluation, and all those. What was that? It's just funny. So let me not go into that. So what I'm saying is there are many ways, right? So most times when I hold some talk live spaces, I still explain all this. But of course, I like what layer two is doing. And anyone, like I said, my niece, she saves in Bitcoin. She uses layer two. She uses a Lightning network, right? So it's people are getting this information, but with time, all we just have to do is to keep telling them how to go about it, and I think
Yeah. I
they'll
see
go around
Lightning
it.
Network sort of as more of like a checkings account to the savings
Yes.
account that you keep in layer one
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it does come with some counterparty risk of you
Of
usually have
course. Of
to,
course.
if you're not technically savvy, you have to basically rent somebody else's node and then you open up
Yeah. Of
a
course.
payment channel to then transact.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a good solution, and there will be more because that's how we are, right? We evolve, we
No,
create new solutions.
a Lightning Network basically is for those who are considering costs and size
Yes,
of transaction. So, for
yes,
example, I can't save 2,000 naira on a Bitcoin using the Bitcoin layer one,
yes,
but with Lightning, I can save as 500 naira. So there's no
yes,
excuse, right?
yes.
So of course I know there's counterparty with that, but then at least it's better off than nothing. Man, maybe and at the end of the day, when you can accumulate the little you have, then you can send it on chain to self custody. So to
Exactly. And
me,
also
it's
the little you have is what people don't understand as the currencies continue to hyperinflate, because that's what's happening. That
thank you.
little you have is going to become a lot more, right? People think
Yeah,
that because it's what 100 million satoshis that make up, one Bitcoin, and people don't
yeah.
think about that. And then then there's microsats, there's different
Thank
units of
you.
account, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
people don't they think, "Oh, I need to buy a whole Bitcoin, it's way too expensive." It's like, "No.
yeah,
You having, let's say, just a million sats
yeah,
in the future, 30, 40, 50 years from now is going to be worth a lot more than the
yeah,
fiat currency, because
yeah.
Bitcoin is designed to keep going up in price against the fiat currency in terms of the value, right? And
Of
the free
course,
market has decided already, right? And this is the
of
thing
course, of
that
course,
people that haven't come to realization of. The free market wants it. As long as the free
of
market
course.
wants it, and El Salvador has already started the game theory, nothing else matters.
Yeah,
Nothing else
and
matters.
someone like Michael Saylor doing it on institution level.
Yeah,
That's
exactly. And
everybody's trying to play catch up.
exactly. And the ETFs
Yeah,
are interesting, but I don't like them because what people don't
of
understand
course.
is they're not buying the actual Bitcoin. So what you're doing is you're taking your fiat, giving it to, let's say, a BlackRock. BlackRock is
Yeah,
taking that fiat to their custodian, who's Coinbase.
yeah,
Coinbase is then custodying they're swapping that fiat then into Bitcoin and custodying it for you. So
yeah,
if you ever wanted to get your Bitcoin, you'd have to ask BlackRock to tell Coinbase to get your Bitcoin, right?
yeah. And Coinbase will not give, BlackRock will not give you back your Bitcoin. They will give you back your fiat gain
Yes,
because it's
exactly,
cash crate. It's cash crate.
exactly.
It's opposite of the Hong Kong type of ETF, which is in
Yeah,
kind. I think Hong Kong ETF was actually more. It made sense, and I think it will bring in more market participants because you can actually retrieve your Bitcoin as
yes,
opposed to the US type, which is whatever you are taking is fiat. You are giving in fiat, you are taking in fiat. You can't take out
yes.
Bitcoin.
You're
Yeah.
just tracking the
So
price. You're just tracking the
yeah,
price, basically.
you are tracking
Um,
price.
yeah. So it's a lot of, again, unlearnings that I think a lot of people need to understand, and yeah, they don't really get it, to that extent. And another thing I want to ask you too, as well, is about the economic. Do you think, because the original, I think the idea of capitalism was a little bit skewed, because the original idea was, to be able to have free markets, right? And let the free markets be able to decide who the winners are.
Yeah.
And I think this version of capitalism is very cutthroat and very skewed, because basically people can not work for goods and services and just borrow the money and then inflate the currency. And
Yeah, somebody was talking about capitalism the other day, and I said there's a difference between capitalism with sound money and capitalism with unsound money.
exactly,
See, everything is sound money. No
exactly.
matter how you want to explain, no matter the avenue, and I feel this is what people don't understand because
Yeah,
whenever they are trying to address something, they are not looking at it from the first principle point of view.
yeah,
They are looking
yes,
at it from the overview, maybe the periphery or the
yes,
superficial layer. So when people they
yes.
are trying to blame capitalism, saying capitalism is bad, and they are blaming unsound money capitalism, not
Exactly.
sound not sound money capitalism, right? With sound
Yes.
money capitalism, there's no malallocation, right?
Yeah.
There's
Exactly.
no you can't just print money and from the okay, let's talk about the factors of production, land, capital. The capital is the only thing that they want to print. You have land, you have what's it called? Equipment, you have what are the four? I'm trying to land,
Yeah. Humans.
uh, human, and
Yeah.
from the four is only capital. They think that is the best thing to inflate or print out,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But if all these things had to be sound, everything falls in place because you
Yeah.
can't print human, you can't print land. Why should you
Yeah.
print capital?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
get so you
Yeah.
can't print any
No.
of these things.
Yeah.
So
It's. I had a big LinkedIn post that I wrote talking about this very thing about sound money, and just it's very simple, right? If I have a problem and somebody has a solution and he solves my problem and I give him an unsound money, right? Versus a sound money, it's different because there's only a limited amount of people with problems and more people can join in to solve those same problems, which makes it more competitive. And the only way to separate yourself from one person to another is pricing and marketing, right?
yeah,
And so
Yeah.
because of that, the price has to drop and go down, right, to be more
Yeah.
competitive, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
in that type of model. So I think that's what. But the problem is the money is not fixed. So if the money was fixed and sound, then we wouldn't have any issues. But because the money's not fixed and sound, you could keep printing more of it. Then more
Of
money again
course.
chases those goods and services, and that's why we have the issue that we have now currently.
Yeah.
It took a while to get to grasp this. I've been studying money for 4 years.
The same.
So yeah. So we're in the same
I've
exact
been
boat.
going I've been going into the general personal financial journey, but Bitcoin
Yeah.
personally
Yeah.
for 4 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you? I want to ask you a question. Do you track any altcoins? Or are you a fan of those? What do you think about them?
Well, I believe at the end of the day, the free market. Yeah. Let's make it clear. Altcoins are there to try to uh, revolutionize other aspect of the things we can do, right? Maybe in terms of what is it called? I'm trying to bring up something. They're trying to revolutionize other aspects in terms of just like Ethereum on the. I'm coming. I'm trying to
Yeah,
check something.
like
Okay,
smart contracts.
smart contracts,
Yeah.
you call it maybe digital infrastructure, exchanges, services, and all those things.
Yes.
But none of them is trying to fix money, just Bitcoin.
Yes.
None,
I
or
I
let me use
agree.
let me use a better word. None of them can fix the money. Only Bitcoin can fix the money. So I try to tell people don't conflict, don't think Bitcoin is crypto, right?
Yes.
Just differentiate them and
Exactly.
see other things as venture capitalism. Why
I
Bitcoin
agree.
is money.
I
So if you
agree.
separate these things, then you have a level head. So you know that if you are going into Ethereum or you are going to Solana or whatever, they are just competing with themselves, right?
Exactly.
Just like Google and or just like Apple, and not Apple,
Yes.
just like Facebook and MySpace. Because I was talking to someone one other day, he was like, is Bitcoin not the new AOL, American Online, and is Bitcoin not the new MySpace compared to Facebook? I said no.
Yeah.
Bitcoin is not a product,
Yeah.
it's a technology, right? It's the sound money technology.
Yes.
They are comparing, they are thinking it's a product or an
Yes.
enterprise, right?
Yes.
That is not what it is. So if you can separate these two things, you understand that altcoins are just venture capitalism. So if you are going
Yeah.
into them, you should understand that you have a counterparty risk, right? You are
Yes.
relying on the effort of others. If you bring in the SEC, what's it called? How did they say it?
That
The
yes.
securities law.
Securities and exchange. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just understand that you are relying on the effort of others and you're
Yeah.
trying to, depend on them to make financial gain and all those things. It's just like the stock market. Let me just use that word.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So,
What do you?
but
Oh,
when, yeah,
go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry. Sorry.
no, I was saying, but understand that Bitcoin is just fixing the money, and none of these things can be money. So when you
Yeah.
understand this very well, then if you want to go into any altcoin, good for you, right? But why
Yeah.
take the risks when Bitcoin will still outperform everything else?
Exactly. Yeah. So what do you think about people that use the strategy of, oh, I'm gonna try to time the top and then sell some of my Bitcoin and then put it into stable coins and then buy back Bitcoin when it's a little bit lower price when when correlated with USD, it's a lower price. So they try to do that strategy. What do you think about that?
Probably they will tell me when the world will end. Well, we know that yeah, there are many models, and I've used things like this to help me buy, but not help
Yeah.
me sell, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I've used them to help me buy, just like when we had the FTX crash,
Yeah.
right? I knew based on some models, relative strength index, and all those things. When you
Yeah.
talk about
Yeah.
technical indicators, and all these things,
Yeah.
maybe some other laws, models, plan B, and all those things. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but these things can help you. It won't help you time the market.
Yeah.
It will help you take advantage of time in the market.
Yes.
So let's
Yes.
say you can know how to accumulate at a particular zone, demand
Yes.
zone, right?
Yes.
And you won't, even if you want to sell, to do something else, you can know when to sell and let's say purchase a land or
Yes.
convert capital to something else. That's just what this model should help you do. But then when it's trying to tell you sell here, buy here, go off the market and wait, well, some people can do that, but I don't think majority can do that. So at the end of the day, you'll be net loss. Okay, and you're talking about altcoin. No, it doesn't work. Now, I held a space the other day. To me, I feel when you should be timing Bitcoin is if you want to sell your Bitcoin for something else. Let's say you want to
Yeah.
purchase a house, so you're trying to take advantage of market premium, maybe when it's overbought,
Yes.
right? So you want to take profits and put into a business,
Yes.
maybe, or into a land, or you want to buy property or something for yourself, of which can maybe give you cash flow, and then you put that your cash flow back into
Back
Bitcoin,
into Bitcoin.
right?
Yes.
This is just how to you call it capital rotation. But then when you are trying to do that in the crypto space, trying to sell altcoin, buy altcoin, sell Bitcoin, no, I think you'll be wrong because, like I said, I if you plot a chart of all the cryptos, all that has lasted for one cycle, above one cycle, not just the ones that are in ones, because every cycle new coins will come out. So most times what the error people have is they are pricing uh an altcoin that has not lasted for one cycle. One cycle is like 4 years plus, right? So they are
Yeah.
pricing an altcoin that has not lasted for one cycle in terms of Bitcoin. Yeah, in the short term, they might outperform Bitcoin. But what you should check is two cycles above. Now,
Yes.
no altcoin has outperformed Bitcoin for more than one cycle.
Yeah.
Ethereum, the only time Ethereum outperformed Bitcoin was 2018. That was the first cycle. Go and check the other cycles. It didn't outperform Bitcoin overall. Overall, it has not had. Now, the error also people have is they tend to look at these things with the charts, with
Yeah.
let's say ETH charts in comparison to USD or Solana charts in comparison to USD. No, if you want to understand how this relates, plot the chart in comparison to Bitcoin,
Yeah.
right? So you will see that none of them has outperformed Bitcoin over time. So
Yeah.
why take the risks, right, of
Yeah.
trying to time Bitcoin when at the end of the day these things will not still outperform?
Yeah.
So the highest you will do is just to understand Bitcoin cycle and then know when to direct capital more. Let's
Yes.
say like during the FTS crash, so you bought in more because that was when I bought in more, right?
Me
So
too.
when
Me
you
too.
buy in
Yeah.
more, or if you are not buying at that time,
Seven.
man, you didn't
Yeah. In the teens. Yeah. I was. Man. I was.
then
Fire sale.
I was pumped up. I was looking for how to, I borrowed
Yeah.
more. I tried to do other kind of work to get in
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
fiat. And in fact, I was trying to mine more fiat to put
Yeah.
into Bitcoin. That
Same.
was just
Same. I call it
so
mining
good.
fiat too as well. I was like, yeah.
Mining,
Yeah.
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 So if you're
Yeah.
not doing at that time, maybe you've not stayed at 1 second, and maybe you've not really understood, or maybe you are still distracted with altcoins because I see some most people do this thing. But when you
Yeah.
focus on the Bitcoin chart, because let me show you what I did. I thank God we're talking about this. I had to do a physical plot because Bitcoin is an 80 volt asset. Look at it.
Oh wow. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
see
Yeah. Yeah.
that?
This is the same
So
chart. This is the same type of chart that I show people too as well. Yeah.
yeah.
About its
So what I said
volatility.
is, look at it here, 80%. Nigerians, we don't really understand. I had to do this manually to get into my subconscious.
Yeah.
So Bitcoin is an 80 volt asset, meaning it dumps 80%. That
Yes.
80% is your maximum accumulation level,
Yeah.
right? People are scared of market chart noise and all those things. That's when you should be accumulating. So I had to do
Yes.
that because I studied this for all circles and it was the same,
Yes. Same.
right? It
Same.
dumps 80%, 75%. That is your accumulation zone. So
Yes.
you should buy more, and that's where you get your profit. So that was what this is what I feel people should understand when it comes to Bitcoin and
Yeah.
in trying to take advantage of the capital gain, or we call this capital gain.
Yes. Yes.
The rise of the asset and all that. Yeah.
What do you? Why do you think that the government, some governments print more money than other governments in correlation to when you're comparing fiat to fiat?
Well, I think first of all, some governments are, let's say, more responsible than the others,
Got it.
right? So, and some governments are also they have like they have this checkmates, like they have their Congress or whatever checkmating them in terms
Yeah.
of spending.
Yeah.
Some other governments don't have this. So they can spend as much as they like, they can print more as much as they like, accumulate more debt, go into more debt and just monetize these things.
Yeah.
And like I said, most people don't understand this. They don't understand the relationship with, you know, increase in government debt and devaluation of the currency and how they
Yeah.
try to monetize that debt. And then the people don't even understand that, just like you said, inflation is theft. They
Yes.
don't even understand that. See, the reason I'm saying this is because before Bitcoin, I didn't know this,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes I sit
Same.
down and I try to reflect how I moved, like like how I now understand how maybe if I see before I didn't like in Nigeria we have what we call DMO, debt management office. So now I even track debt management office and they keep increasing their debt and all those things. Before to me I just felt okay, this debt maybe they borrow it and they can pay back.
Yes.
I didn't know me I'm the one paying back with inflation, right?
Yes.
So people don't really understand this. And I'm telling you, even those in government offices, Congress and all these things, like when I say like Africa, most of us don't understand this economic, they don't understand the connection. So more, like for example, the US, more will be more, for example, their currencies are relatively stable
Yeah.
compared to us. How come in 1973, Naira was more valuable than the dollar? And today, it doesn't even make sense. And these
Yeah.
people, they don't even feel there's no remorse.
Yeah.
It's just like a normal thing. And to me, these people they've lived all their lives in Naira.
Yeah.
I don't know if you get, my
Yes.
dad was a young man in 1973. In fact, that's when he got his employment. He was working in Nigerian Post Authority, right? 1973. And 1973 was when Naira was its highest. That is 0.660, 0.6. Let me call it 60 kobo to a dollar. That was when it was the highest in value.
Yeah.
So he has someone like him, and most of them who are in the political whatever office and politics or government, they've lived all their life in naira. But
Yeah.
I'm surprised that they don't even understand that this inflation is as a result of their excessive spending and all those things, right?
Yeah.
Or their irresponsibility or their fiscal irresponsibility. They don't know all these things. Even my dad doesn't understand inflation.
My dad neither. My dad
He
neither.
doesn't. And he has
Yeah.
lived all his life with Naira.
Yeah. My
So
dad
how
too.
come they don't understand this thing? They
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
So how
Yeah.
come it's just of late that I've been trying to talk to him and okay, now he understand because yes, they understood gold,
Yeah.
right? They knew what gold was. They knew gold was sound like a good thing to hold. But they just felt it's like every other investment. They feel gold is just like maybe stock or real estate or whatever.
Yeah.
Something that you can uh or they feel money is not something that should, I don't know how to put it. Money is something that you should take and put into an investment.
Yeah.
They feel money should not be an investment in itself. And
Yeah.
this is also when I talk to people about Bitcoin, I try to tell them that Bitcoin is money and it's also an investment. But if you want to think of it as an investment, think of it differently because Bitcoin has monetary policy, right?
Yes.
21 million coins all his life,
Yes.
every 4 year halving, every
The block rewards.
216, thank you, every 216 block difficulty adjustment and all these things. These are monetary policy, but it's not
Yes.
controlled by any person. It's the same as fiat currency that has its own monetary policy in terms of interest rates, trying to use open market operation,
Quantitative
what's
easing,
it called?
quantitative tightening.
Quantitative easy tightening, yeah, and all those stuff, right? So Bitcoin has monetary policy. Investment don't have monetary policy.
Yeah.
Apple stock doesn't have monetary policy.
Yeah.
Real estate investing doesn't have monetary policy because they are not the same everywhere. I don't know. Do you get me? So
Yeah.
people they don't separate these two things. So what I'm saying is that uh, in some other countries, governments have the citizens. Let me use that word. Like in the US, oh, I see US. They have 1% inflation. Everybody is shouting 1%. Government is this. CPI moves zero. How man? CPI moves 0.1%, and everybody is shouting. Oh,
Yeah.
we have inflation. Man, we
And
have 150% every year.
and you know what's funny about the
And people
CPI
don't even
report?
understand.
The funny thing about the CPI report is that it's miscalculated. You know, they don't even add real estate in the CPI
Yeah,
report. You know,
yeah.
it's all a scam. All
Because
of it,
every
the whole
every
thing.
person every person's CPI is different because we have different things we purchase our money. We use our money to purchase, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's all funny, man. It's all funny. But Stan, man, this has been great, man. I gotta have you back on again. Where can people find you on the internet?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter, Stanorajis. I'm on Twitter. I think basically on Twitter. That's where and I've been on Twitter just a year. I didn't want to come in early because I wanted to understand the financial system. I didn't want someone telling me what Bitcoin was. And
Yes.
this is what I think most people do. And whenever I try to talk to people, I don't want to impose Bitcoin on them. I try to make them reason on with me,
Yeah.
right? So I'm not telling you buy Bitcoin. It will make you rich tomorrow. No, I'm trying to tell
Exactly.
you, okay. I'm trying to tell you, okay, you have so many things you can invest with. So let's say you have, in fact, we don't even have stock. We don't have all these things. Okay, let's say we just have real estate. But with
Yeah.
real estate, you cannot buy real estate with your monthly income, with your
Yes.
savings. But there's
Yes.
something you can buy with your savings, which can help you, scale up and all that. So this is what I just try to explain to people. And then they grab it from their own mind. They get it for themselves, right? They say charity begins at home. So they get it at home inside. And
Yeah.
then they can maybe spread the word to other people. So on Twitter, I'm Stanorajis, and I think that's where I do more of my talking and ranting.
Awesome. Awesome, man. Yeah, I gotta get you back on again another time and talk about different topics, man. It's been great. Yeah. Do you have any closing thoughts before we go?
No, I also want to follow you on Twitter. I think you're on Twitter, right?
No, LinkedIn. I use LinkedIn because there's too many
Okay.
bots, and I don't like Twitter. Yeah.
I understand. I understand. No, no
Yeah.
problems. All
Yeah.
right.
All right, man. This concludes this episode of the Mooncast, man, and peace.